She thought she understood the game until she realized she was just a pawn. A quiet life shattered in seconds. One message, one mistake, and suddenly everything around her started to fall apart. The people she trusted, gone. The truth she believed, a lie. But when she finally uncovers what's really been happening behind the scenes, it's already too late to turn back. Now she has only one choice: expose everything or lose herself forever. Not everything is as it seems. Sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that the people closest to us can hide the darkest secrets. Stay aware, trust wisely, and never ignore the signs when something feels wrong. If this story kept you hooked, don't forget to like and share. Your support means everything and gives us the motivation to bring you even more powerful stories. Thanks for watching.
At 9:47 that morning, my husband texted me. Happy anniversary, babe. I am stuck at work. I cannot wait to celebrate tonight. Love you. I was in my restaurant's back office and looked through the window into the dining area. My heart stopped. He was there, just 2 tables from my office. He was kissing a red-haired woman like it was the most natural thing in the world. I got up, ready to confront them. But a stranger stepped in my way and whispered, "Wait, the real story has not even started." Thank you for following my story. If it moved you, please leave a comment. I would love to know where you are from, your city or country. A quick note, this tale is fictional, but the lessons about trust and strength are very real. It began on a grey Wednesday, February 14th, 2024. This was exactly 2 years after Jake Carson and I got married. I went to my restaurant, Rose's Kitchen, at 7:30 in the morning, hours before we opened. I wanted to create a special anniversary dinner to remind my husband why he fell for me. My office smelled like flour and cinnamon from the churros we made yesterday. Through the window, I watched Carmen prepare tables for lunch. The morning sun lit up the dining room. I decided to make saffron risotto with Oregon morels for our celebration. It was Jake's favorite, the meal I cooked on our first date 5 years before. I was in the middle of my prep work when my phone buzzed at exactly 9:47. The screen showed a text from my husband. It read, "Happy anniversary, babe. I am stuck at work. I cannot wait to celebrate tonight." He ended it with, "Love you." For a brief second, I felt a flutter of hope in my chest, a silly feeling that we might be okay, despite the recent distance between us. As I reached to reply, movement in the dining room caught my eye. I saw a flash of navy blue, a posture so familiar it made my heart pause. I looked up from my work and through the glass that separated us. I saw him at a corner table less than 30 feet away. I stood there frozen, just watching him from my office. Jake was sitting in my own restaurant inside Rose's Kitchen. This was the place I poured my life into every day, the same place he claimed he could not be because of work. He had on the navy jacket I bought him for Christmas, the one with leather elbow patches. He leaned back in his chair, looking confident and completely unaware he was being watched. He was not by himself. Across from him sat a woman with long, glossy red hair. She was leaning in, her hand resting on his arm. Then she got up, walked around to him, and put her arms around his neck. She gave him a deep, long kiss that was anything but friendly. It was the kind of kiss that says, "I know everything about you." He reached up to hold her face, just like he used to hold mine when we were dating. My phone slipped and hit the desk. Its screen still glowed with his text message about being stuck at work. Time froze in that terrible moment. I could not understand how the loving text matched the betrayal happening right in front of me. My mind desperately tried to find another explanation. Maybe it was not Jake. Maybe I was just exhausted and seeing things. Perhaps it was all a complicated surprise. But I knew that jacket. I knew how he slouched a little when he was relaxed. I knew the way he touched a person's face when he kissed them because he had kissed me that way so many times. There was no mistake. I was about to throw open the glass door and march across those 30 feet to confront them. My hand was on the knob, my body filled with rage, when a gentle but firm hand stopped me. I spun around with my heart racing. I was face to face with a woman I had not seen for nearly 4 years. It was Detective Sarah Morgan, an old friend from high school. She wore regular clothes and had her police badge clipped to her belt. Her eyes were serious and steady. The look on her face, a mix of concern and authority, made me freeze. "Wait," she said in a quiet voice that was full of conviction. "Do not go out there yet, Zoe. Something much bigger is going on here." Her hand on my shoulder held me back as every part of me wanted to rush out and start a fight. I just stared at her. My eyes filled with tears that I hadn't noticed were falling, and my body shook. "Sarah, what are you doing here? How did you even—" My voice was a choked whisper. "I was having coffee at the counter," she said, nodding toward the front bar. "I visit sometimes on my days off." I saw him walk in about 20 minutes ago. I saw the kiss. And I saw your expression through the window. I knew what you were about to do. She squeezed my shoulder tighter. Zoe, if you confront him now, emotional and with no evidence, you will just warn him. You will lose the chance to learn what he is really up to. Trust me, I know these cases. Men bold enough to do this in their wife's own restaurant are usually hiding much more. I need to know what is happening, I whispered, my voice breaking. Sarah's face softened a little. Then go home, she said firmly. Go home now while he thinks you're still working here. Go through his office, his computer, and his phone bills. Find the evidence, document it all, take pictures, save emails, and then call me. She took a business card from her pocket and put it in my shaking hand. But if you face him now without proof, he will deny everything. He will try to make you feel crazy and unstable. He will cover up his secrets. Do not give him that advantage. I looked back through the glass. Jake was already standing up, taking out his wallet and leaving a $20 bill on the table. The red haired woman was gone. Sarah was right. If I went out there, I would only get lies. But if I went home quietly while he thought I was busy, I could find the truth. Okay, I whispered. Sarah squeezed my shoulder again. Be smart, Zoe. Be strategic and call me when you find something. The moment Jake left at 9:52, I grabbed my coat and keys with trembling hands. I did not say goodbye to Carmen. I left a pot on the stove. I did not even untie my apron as I ran out the back into the cold rain. The drive home normally takes 12 minutes, but I made it in 8. When I arrived, Jake's car was in the driveway. I unlocked the door and walked into the quiet house where everything looked normal, but I knew that nothing was normal ever again. I went to Jake's home office and the door was ajar. His desk was covered with documents. The top one was a divorce petition for the Oregon Circuit Court. It listed Jake Michael Carson as the person filing and me, Zoe Maria Martinez, as the respondent. It was all filled out with his signature in blue ink. Only my signature line was blank. Underneath that was a business valuation for Rose's Kitchen for $2.8 million. I found an email from Marcus Brennan at Cascade Dining Group from November 3rd, 2023. It said, Jake, we can close as soon as you get power of attorney. The $2.8 million offer stands. Make sure she is weak enough to sign before October 28th. Once the deal is final, the money will go to an offshore account. A different email from February 11th confirmed that the red-haired contact would manage the emotional part. She had agreed. At the very bottom, I saw a printed screenshot of texts, and the contact name made my world stop. Maya, my sister, the red-haired woman, was my own sister. It was February 14th, 2024, a Wednesday at 2 in the afternoon in Jake's home office. The silence in the house was deafening. For almost 3 hours, I had been staring at divorce papers and appraisal and emails from Marcus Brennan. I was waiting for any of it to make sense. Jake was not home. His car was gone from the driveway. He was still out with her, with Maya. The longer I sat there, the more I understood that I did not know my husband or my sister at all. The text conversation with Maya's name was still on the table, facing up like an accusation. I read it again and again until the letters became a blur. I hoped I had seen it wrong, that it was a different Maya, a stranger with a familiar name, but it was not. The area code was hers. The contact picture was blurry, but it was her from 2 Christmases ago at our ugly sweater party. My little sister, who I helped raise after our mom passed away, the one who crawled into my bed during thunderstorms. That Maya. I had to know more. I had to find out how far this betrayal went. I stood up from the chair and went into Jake's office. His laptop was closed on his desk. Its silver Apple logo reflected the gray light coming through the blinds. I had never touched his computer before. He told me it was just for work, full of boring spreadsheets and building contracts. He said I would not be interested. I trusted him. I trusted everything he said. My hands felt steadier than they did this morning. I suppose anger does that. It burns away the shock and leaves something cold in its place. I opened the laptop. The screen came alive, showing a glowing password box. I typed in the password I had seen him use for everything, for our Netflix and our bank account. Rosa 2022, the year we were married, the year he vowed to love and protect me forever. The screen unlocked. I was in his computer. His desktop was very neat and organized. There were a few folders marked work, taxes, and personal. I clicked on the email application. His inbox appeared with hundreds of messages. I scrolled through, reading the subject lines, searching for something unusual. Then I found it. Riedel Finalization Timeline. It was from Marcus Brennan, the acquisitions director at Cascade Dining Group. I clicked on it. The email thread opened, revealing messages that went back 4 months. October 10th, 2023. Jake, just confirming that once you get power of attorney for Rosa's kitchen, we can finalize the deal in 72 hours. The $2.8 million is ready to be sent. Make certain she signs it willingly. We need to avoid legal trouble. November 3rd, 2023. The timeline has been extended to 90 days. Make sure she is weak enough to sign before the time is up. Use emotional stress, health problems, whatever you need to. The red-haired contact is going to help with the emotional part. She is on board. The red-haired contact. I scroll down faster, my heart pounding in my ears. Another email dated January 22nd, 2024. Your contact is confirmed. M has agreed to the plan. She will keep Rosa distracted and emotionally fragile. Once the power of attorney is signed, you will transfer the business to us. We will send the $2.8 million to your offshore account in the Cayman Islands, account number 847392. And you will be free to start over with M in Seattle. Maya's table is scheduled to open in the third quarter of 2024. Congratulations, my friend. Maya's table. I forgot to breathe. They were naming a restaurant after her, my sister, the same restaurant Jake had promised we would open together one day, the one we dreamed about on our honeymoon, the one I drew layouts for in the pages of my cookbooks. He was giving it all to her, he was giving my entire life to her. I clicked on a different folder marked personal. Inside there was another folder simply named M. I opened it. There were photos, dozens of them, Jake and Maya at Pike Place Market in Seattle. At Cannon Beach, the exact place where Jake had proposed to me 3 years before. In a hotel bar, her hand was on his chest and his lips were on her neck. The photos went back 18 months. 18 months. They had been doing this for a year and a half. I felt like I was drowning in lies. I opened the messaging app. The conversation with Maya was right at the top. Unread messages from the past few weeks. I scrolled to the very last exchange, February 13th, 2024, yesterday at 11:47 at night. Maya wrote, "Tomorrow is your anniversary with her, isn't it? Are you sure you can do this?" Jake wrote back, "Relax, baby. I will send her a sweet text in the morning. That will keep her calm. By October, this will be finished. It will be you and me, Maya's table, and a baby. That is our plan." Maya replied, "I want a baby with you, Jake. Soon. Promise me." Jake's last message was, "I promise, baby, soon." I slammed the laptop shut so hard that the entire desk shook. My hands were trembling again, but it was not from shock, it was from pure rage. It was from a betrayal so deep I felt like my bones were breaking. Maya wanted a baby with him. My own sister wanted to have my husband's child. She wanted the life that I thought was mine. And Jake. Jake had been manipulating both of us. He promised me a future while he was stealing my family's restaurant. He promised her a future that was built on a mountain of lies. But there was something else. A line in Marcus Brennan's email that I could not get out of my head. Make sure she is weak enough to sign before the deadline. Emotional strain, health issues, whatever it takes, health issues. I had been feeling sick for months ever since November. The constant nausea, the tiredness, the stomach pain that came in waves each morning. I told myself it was just stress. I thought it was just from the pressure of running the restaurant, but what if it was something else? What if Jake was doing something to me? My stomach twisted into a knot. I ran to the bathroom and barely reached the toilet before I got sick, the acid burning my throat. When I could finally sit up, shaking and crying, I saw it on the counter. Jake's travel bag was open. Tucked inside, right next to his razor, was a small brown bottle. I picked it up with a trembling hand. The label said, Ipecac syrup for inducing vomiting in cases of poisoning. The expiration date was March 2025. The bottle was half empty. I stared at it as my mind raced. Ipecac. That is what had been making me so sick. Jake had been poisoning me, not with enough to kill me, but just enough to make me weak, just enough to make me feel hopeless and exhausted. He wanted me willing to sign anything just to make the sickness stop. Make sure she is weak enough to sign. Oh my God. I stumbled back to the office, holding the bottle tightly, and opened the laptop one more time. This time I looked at his search history, and I found it. Searches from 3 months ago, how to cause nausea without being caught, power of attorney rules in Oregon, can a business sale be challenged if signed under pressure? He planned it. He planned every single part of this. And Maya, my sister, my own flesh and blood, had helped him. I am not sure how long I sat there looking at the screen as all the broken pieces of my life finally fell into place, each one cutting me deeper. But when I finally shut the laptop and when I finally stood up and looked out the window at the rain, I was not crying, I was not shaking anymore. I felt cold and clear and focused. Jake and Maya believe they can take my whole world away from me, but they are very wrong because now I know everything. And as my grandmother Rosa used to say, knowledge is the sharpest knife in the kitchen. I just had to learn how to use it. But first, I needed to find out for sure what Jake had been putting in my coffee, and I was going to need proof. It was February 15th, 2024, a Thursday at 6:30 in the morning in the kitchen of our house. I did not sleep at all last night. How could I? Every time I shut my eyes, I saw that little brown bottle. The bottle of ipecac syrup was half gone. I lay in the darkness, hearing Jake's steady breathing, imagining all the mornings he smiled while poisoning my coffee. He came in late after 11. I heard his keys, his steps on the stairs, and the floor groaning as he undressed. I kept my eyes closed, my breathing even, pretending to be fast asleep. He slid into bed like it was any other night, not like he had just been with my sister, planning to take everything from me. I wanted to yell, I wanted to throw the bottle at him and demand why, but I stayed quiet. To stop him, I had to be smarter. I needed evidence. So when the alarm rang at 6:30 this morning, I got out of bed. I went through the usual routine. I brushed my teeth, I tied my hair back, I slipped on the old Portland Trailblazers hoodie I always wear. I walked into the kitchen as if it were a normal Thursday. Jake was already at the counter wearing his gray shirt and sweatpants as the coffee pot sputtered. He turned and smiled when he saw me. It was the same charming smile I fell for 5 years ago. "Morning, babe," he said, acting like he wasn't plotting my demise. "Morning," I answered, my voice firm. I stood in the doorway, my arms crossed, just watching him. He grabbed the two ceramic mugs from the counter. They were the ones we bought at a farmer's market in Hood River, with the little strawberries painted on them. He poured coffee into both mugs. Steam swirled up from them. Then he turned to the refrigerator to get the almond milk I use. As he did that, his other hand slipped into the pocket of his sweatpants. It was only for a second, just long enough for him to pull out something small. It was a vial made of brown glass, the same bottle I had found. My stomach tightened, but I did not move a muscle. I kept my expression blank. I just watched. He twisted the cap off with one hand and tipped it over my mug. A few clear drops fell into the dark coffee. Then he screwed the cap back on, put the bottle back in his pocket, and reached for the almond milk as if nothing had happened. The entire motion is over in 5 seconds. If I had blinked, I would have missed it all. He uses a spoon to stir both cups, the metal making a soft sound. Then he brings my coffee to me, wearing that same familiar smile. "Here you are, darling. Extra almond milk, just how you love it." I accept the cup, my fingers briefly touching his. My hands are perfectly steady. I will not let them tremble. "Thank you," I say. I lift the mug toward my mouth, faking a small sip. The scent is what I notice first. Sharp, bitter coffee, but with another smell underneath. A chemical odor. Something terribly wrong. I barely let the coffee touch my lips. Then I lower the mug. It is perfect. I lie. Jake is leaning on the counter, drinking his coffee and looking at his phone, likely texting Maya and planning their next step. I peer at him over the edge of my cup, acting as if I am drinking, and feel my heart harden. This man, the man I married, the one I gave all my trust to, has been poisoning me daily for 3 months. I remember back to November. That is when the feeling started. The sickness, the deep tiredness, the stomach pains that would appear from nowhere. They were so intense I would have to stop working at the restaurant and bend over, hoping not to get sick in front of my guests. I was convinced I was ill. I blamed stress, or a stomach ulcer, or a case of food poisoning that never ended. I saw my doctor 2 times. They did tests but discovered nothing. They suggested it was anxiety, told me to relax, and all that time it was Jake. He was slowly, deliberately making me weak enough for him to control. "Zoe, are you okay?" Jake's voice startles me. He is watching me now, his head tilted with a look of concern. It is fake concern. "You seem very tired." "I am fine," I reply. "I just had a restless night." "You have been saying that quite often," he notes, putting his cup down. He moves toward me, reaching up to tuck a loose strand of my hair back. His hand on my skin makes me want to pull away. "You should probably take the day off. Let Carmen manage the restaurant. You should get some rest. Rest so I become even weaker, so I become easier to manage." "Perhaps," I answer with a forced smile. "I will consider it." He leans in and kisses my forehead. It is soft and gentle, just like his kiss on our wedding day. "I love you, Zoe," he murmurs. For a brief moment, I almost fall for his act. Almost. Then he picks up his keys from the counter and starts for the door. "I have a meeting early this morning. I will be home tonight." Okay, I answer. The door shuts behind him. I stay still until I hear the sound of his car leaving the driveway. Then I spring into action. I take a small glass spice jar out of the cupboard and pour my remaining coffee into it. I get every single drop. I seal the lid tightly, wipe the jar clean, and place it deep inside my purse. Next, I pour Jake's leftover coffee into the sink, wash out both mugs, and place them into the dishwasher. I stand there for a second, holding the countertop, breathing heavily. Now my hands are shaking. It is not from fear, but from pure rage. 3 months. He has been doing this to me for 3 months, and I had no idea. I was blind to it, but my eyes are open now, and I am going to get the proof. I take out my phone and look up medical labs in the area. Providence Medical Lab, it has 4.7 stars. They open at 8. I can get there in 20 minutes. I send a quick text message to Carmen. Are you able to open the restaurant this morning? I have an appointment with my doctor. I will come in around noon. Her response is almost instant. Of course, dear. Is everything all right? I look at her message. No, nothing is all right, but it will be soon. Yes, I write back. Just a routine visit. I put my phone away, take my purse with the coffee sample inside, and walk out the door. If Jake is poisoning me, I must find out what he is using, and I must have evidence, real legal evidence, the kind that a judge will accept in a courtroom, because this is bigger than just me now. This involves Rose's kitchen, my grandmother's entire legacy, and everything that Jake and Meyer are trying to take from me. I will not let them win. It is Friday morning, February 16th, a little after 10:15, when I arrive at the parking lot of Providence Medical Lab on Northeast Gleason Street in Portland. I have been sitting in my parked car for 5 minutes. The engine is off and my hands are tight on the steering wheel. I am staring at the clinic's glass doors as if they are about to eat me. Inside my purse, hidden in a paper bag, is the jar holding yesterday's coffee, the coffee Jake prepared for me, the coffee I saw him tamper with. I informed Carmen that I had to take care of a quick task before coming to the restaurant. I mentioned checking on supplies with a vendor on the other side of town. She did not pry. Carmen is not like that. She simply said, "Take all the time you need." I was so grateful for her trust. I did not sleep at all last night. I just lay there beside Jake, hearing him breathe, and wondered how he could rest so soundly after what he has done. After conspiring with my own sister to ruin me. After spending 3 months carefully poisoning me each morning. This morning, he made coffee just like always. The same process, the same smile, the same kiss on my head before he left for work. I did not drink it. I dumped it out the moment he was gone. And for the first morning in many weeks, I did not feel sick by 9 a.m. No stomach pains, no lightheadedness, nothing at all. In that moment, I knew for certain it is the coffee. It has always been the coffee. I grab my purse, inhale deeply, and step out of the car. The air is chilly and damp. It is a typical February day in Portland, the kind of cold that gets deep into your bones. I walk through the parking lot, pass through the automatic doors, and enter the waiting area. The room is spotless, almost sterile, and smells of disinfectant mixed with a lavender scent that bothers my stomach. A receptionist sitting behind a clear barrier looks up from her screen and gives me a smile. "Good morning. What can I do for you?" "I need to ask about a toxicology test," I say, my voice firm for a liquid sample. Her smile weakens just a little. "Please wait one moment." She lifts the phone, speaks quietly into it, and then she nods. "Dr. Bennett will see you in a few minutes. You can have a seat." I choose a plastic chair by the window, holding my purse tightly on my lap. The jar inside feels unnaturally heavy. Other people are waiting around me. There is an elderly man with a cane. A young woman is looking at her phone. A mother is with a restless child. They are all normal people with normal lives. I wonder if any of them are here because their spouse is trying to poison them. I doubt it. After what seems like a very long time, but was likely only 10 minutes, a door swings open and a woman in a lab coat appears. She looks to be in her early 40s, with dark hair in a tidy bun and kind brown eyes behind glasses. "Zoe Martinez," she says. I get to my feet. "That is me. I am Dr. Rachel Bennett," she explains, offering her hand. Her handshake is solid and professional. "Please come with me." I walk behind her down a short hallway and into a small room. She points to a chair and I sit down. She shuts the door, sits across from me, and places her hands on the desk. "So," she begins in a soft voice, "the receptionist said you wanted a toxicology screen for a beverage. Could you tell me more about that?" I take the jar out of my purse and place it on the desk. The coffee inside has separated, with a dark, oily layer on top. "I need to find out if this contains anything," I explain. "Anything that is not supposed to be in it. Poison, medication, chemicals, anything at all." Dr. Bennett lifts the jar, holding it toward the light to inspect it. "And where did you get this from?" I pause for a moment. "My husband prepared it for me yesterday morning." Her gaze meets mine. There is a long, meaningful silence. "And you are worried because I have been feeling very sick." The words spill out of me now. For 3 months, I have had nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and terrible stomach pains. My family doctor did tests. He found nothing. But yesterday, I did not drink the coffee my husband gave me, and today I feel perfectly fine. I have no symptoms at all. Dr. Bennett puts the jar down gently. Her face is calm, but I can see the worry in her eyes. Zoe, I need to ask you, do you feel that you are safe at home? The question just hangs there in the room. Not any longer, I say quietly. But I am helpless until I get proof. Real, legal proof. That is the reason I am here. She nods her head slowly, her eyes fixed on me. I see. We can perform a full toxicology analysis on this. It will check for common poisons, prescription medicine, over the counter drugs, and many chemical agents. How much time will it take? 72 hours, she answers. We will contact you as soon as we have the results. And will this be usable in court if I need it? If you intend to take legal action, yes, this lab is CLIA certified. Our findings are acceptable in a court of law. She waits a moment. But Zoe, if you are in any immediate danger, I am not, I say quickly. Not right now. He is not aware that I know, and I have to keep it that way until I gather everything I need to stop him. Dr. Bennett looks at me for a long time, then nods. Very well. The cost for the test is $127.50. We can submit it to your insurance if. No, I interrupt, taking out my wallet. I pull out an old credit card that was my mother's before she passed, one I saved for emergencies. I will pay with this card. Just please do not bill my insurance. She does not ask for a reason. She simply takes the card, runs the payment, and gives me the receipt. She tells me they will call on Monday afternoon. If I feel threatened before then, she says to dial 911 or her number. She gives me a business card. I put it in my purse with my receipt. I thank her, and I truly mean it. She guides me to the waiting room, placing a hand on my shoulder for a moment. Please take care, Zoe. I leave the clinic and return to my car, the crisp air nipping at my skin. I just sit for a second, breathing heavily with trembling hands. It is done. In 72 hours, 3 days, I will finally know what Jake puts in my coffee. With that proof, I can figure out my next step. I start the engine and leave the parking lot, driving toward Rose's kitchen. While on the road, a thought strikes me. I feel much better today. My thoughts are clearer, sharper, my stomach feels calm, my head does not hurt. For the first time in months, I feel like my old self. That realization is nearly as frightening as the poison because it proves Jake was winning. He was slowly dismantling me, and I never even realized it. But I see it clearly now. 72 hours. In just 72 more hours, I will know if my husband tried to poison me. Then I will know precisely how to make him stop. It is Monday afternoon, February 19th, too, and I am at Rose's kitchen prepping for dinner service when my phone vibrates inside my apron. I dry my hands on a cloth and take out my phone. It is an unknown number from the Portland area. My chest feels tight. I go to the back office to answer. Hello, Zoe? This is Dr. Rachel Bennett from Providence Medical Lab. Her voice is level, but there is a hint of something else. It might be urgency or maybe worry. Can you please come to the clinic now? I have the results and I think we should talk about them face to face. My stomach plummets. Is it? Did you discover something? Yes, she replies softly, and I believe you will want to see this as soon as you can. I tell Carmen I have to leave for an hour, get my coat and keys, and I am driving before I even have a second thought. The clinic is a 12-minute drive, but it feels like 12 hours. My hands are firm on the steering wheel, but my thoughts are racing. They discovered something. They found the evidence. When I arrive in the parking lot, my heart is beating so fast I can feel the pulse in my throat. Dr. Bennett is waiting for me in the same room as last time. She rises as I enter, motions toward the chair, and shuts the door. A manila folder sits on the desk between us. She takes a seat, opens it, and pushes a lab report toward me. Zoe, she begins gently. The results arrived this morning. I wanted to call you sooner, but I had to confirm with the lab again because this is quite serious. I look down at the paper. The page is full of complicated words with columns of chemical names and their levels. But one line near the top is marked in yellow. Ipecac syrup detected 15 milliliters per 250 milliliter sample. My vision goes blurry for a moment. I blink again, trying to see clearly. Ipecac, I say, my voice a faint whisper. That is the thing that makes you vomit, isn't it? Yes, Dr. Bennett confirms. It is a syrup used to cause vomiting after someone has been poisoned. It was once common in first aid kits, but is no longer advised because it can be harmful if used incorrectly. At that level, 15 milliliters in a normal cup of coffee, it would not be fatal immediately, but it would lead to constant nausea, vomiting, fatigue, stomach pain, and overall weakness. I meet her gaze. For how long? If taken every day for a few months, it could have very serious long-term effects: dehydration, an imbalance of electrolytes, weak muscles, and even harm to the digestive system. She stops for a moment. Zoe, someone has been intentionally poisoning you, and from what you told me, this has been happening for at least 3 months. The room seems to spin. I hold on to the desk to keep myself steady. 3 months. It began in November. The sickness, the tiredness, the pains. I believed I was ill. I believed I was overworked. I believed it was all my fault. But it was Jake. For 3 months, he looked at me with a smile, kissed me, gave me coffee, and poisoned me. Zoe? Dr. Bennett says, leaning closer, her voice steady but warm. You must report this to the police immediately. This is against the law. The person who did this is committing assault and maybe even attempted murder. You need to be protected. I shake my head no. I cannot do that. Why can't you? Because this is not enough, I answer, touching the report. I need more than this. I need to understand his full plan. If I call the police now, he will just say it is not true. He will claim I'm inventing stories or that I put the ipecac in my own coffee to set him up. He is clever, he has resources, he has a team of lawyers, and he is already trying to take everything I own. Dr. Bennett's expression becomes stern. Zoe. If he is poisoning you, his actions might become more dangerous. You are not safe. I understand, I reply calmly, but I am not drinking his coffee now. I quit 4 days ago. He is not aware that I know, and I must maintain that advantage until I have what I need to end this. She observes me for a long moment before nodding her head slowly. Okay, but you must promise me if you feel you are in danger, if the situation changes, you will dial 911 or you will call me. She takes out a card and jots down another number on the back. This is my private cell phone. Call anytime. I accept the card, fold the report, and place them both in my bag. Thank you, Dr. Bennett, for all your help. She accompanies me to the door, her hand briefly on my shoulder. Be safe, Zoe. I return to my car, the weight of the lab report in my purse. It is the evidence of what Jake did to me, the proof that he was methodically wearing me down, making me fragile and desperate so I would give him Rose's kitchen easily, make sure she is weak enough to sign. That is what the email from Marcus Brennan said, and Jake did exactly that. He poisoned me. Each morning for 3 months, he looked me in the eyes as he poisoned me. I sit in my car, hands gripping the wheel, staring into space. The anger that I have held for 5 days now sharpens into something much colder. Jake believes he is in control. He believes he has defeated me, but he is mistaken because I have evidence now. I have legal, documented, and lab certified proof. That fact changes the entire situation. I turn on the car and drive away, already thinking about what to do next. Jake wants more than just Rose's kitchen. He wants me out of the picture. And Maya, my very own sister, is helping him, but they both made a critical error. They misjudged me. They believed I would be too exhausted, too sick, and too defeated to resist. They never imagined I would find the bottle. They never thought I would get the coffee tested. And they certainly never expected that I would have a secret plan. But I do. I always have. My grandmother made sure of it. Abuela Rosa did not just give me the restaurant. She gave me something more. Something Jake and Maya and Marcus Brennan have no idea about. It is something I have not used in 5 years, not since the day she passed it down to me, but I believe the time has come to use it now. Jake's goal was to make me weak. He wanted to ruin me, but he does not know that I have just found my advantage. By the time he figures out what is going on, it will be too late. It is Tuesday evening, February 20th, a little after 7. I am at the entrance of Abuela Rosa's old bedroom. This room belonged to her before she passed away 5 years ago. I have hardly been in it since. The house is silent. Jake sent a text an hour ago saying he was working late, which likely means he is with Maya. I no longer care. Let him create his own problems. I am here tonight because I needed a place that felt secure, a place that reminded me of her. The room still carries the soft scent of her perfume Chanel No. 5. That was the one bit of luxury she permitted herself. The walls are still covered with old pictures. Rose's kitchen in the beginning, a small shop on Division Street. Abuela in her apron, a smudge of flour on her face, smiling for the camera, a photo of me as a young girl on a stool next to her, learning to knead bread dough. I miss her so much. Oh, how I miss her. She would understand what to do. She always did. I go to the old wooden dresser in the corner. She found it at a yard sale in 1979 and restored it by hand. On its surface, in a special spot, rests her book of recipes. This is not the printed cookbook that was sold in the restaurant. This one is much older and more personal, a leather-bound book, now 45 years old. The cover is now soft and brown after decades of handling. All of her perfected recipes are inside, written in her neat, slanted handwriting. Mole Negro, Tamales Oaxaqueños. I have looked at this book many times since her passing, but I could never make myself cook anything from it. It felt too much like saying goodbye to her a second time. But tonight, I reach for it. I am not sure why. Perhaps I need to feel her presence. Perhaps I need a reminder that I come from a strong woman. I lift the book gently, holding it with both hands, and sit on the bed. The leather on the spine is cracked and the stitching is coming loose. As I hold it, a corner of the cover gets caught on my shirt and I hear a faint ripping noise. My heart skips. Oh no, please no. I look at it more closely. The leather on the inside edge of the cover has come loose, showing something else underneath. It is not the cardboard I thought I would see, it is paper. I place the book on my lap and gently pull back more of the torn leather. There, inside a secret compartment between the cover and the binding, are three folded sheets of paper. My hands tremble as I take them out. The first one is a letter written in blue ink in Abuela's hand. I unfold it with care, pressing out the folds, and begin to read. My dearest granddaughter Zoe, if you are reading this letter, then I am no longer with you. This means someone has turned against you. I always suspected this day could arrive. Your grandfather and I poured our hearts and souls into Rose's kitchen, but our success came with a cost. I know that kind of success can make others envious and dangerous. That is why I made a plan to keep you safe when I could no longer be there. There is a trust fund for you, my daughter, of $850,000. It's at Wells Fargo Bank in my name, and my lawyer, Benjamin Hartley, manages it. He has been a dear friend for 40 years, and I trust him completely with your future. The fund has one specific condition. It can only be opened with proof that someone is trying to steal Rose's kitchen from you. Since you're reading this letter, I am sure you now have that proof. You must call Benjamin, show him everything you have discovered. He will assist you in releasing the funds. Use that money to defend yourself and to protect the restaurant. It is your defense now, Zoe. Please use it with care. I will love you always and forever. Abuela Rosa. The words on the page swam before my eyes. Hot tears ran down my face, and I did not bother to wipe them away. She knew. She had a feeling this could happen. She understood I might need help, and she made sure I would have it. Even now, she is still watching over me. I dried my eyes and looked at the second paper she had left. It was an official certificate from Wells Fargo Bank from January 2015, 10 years ago. It read, Rosa Martinez Family Trust Fund. Principal amount $850,000. The third item was a simple business card. Benjamin Hartley, attorney at law, Hartley and Associates. A phone number was printed below his name. I sat there for a very long time, holding her letter and the certificate, the book resting in my lap. $850,000. That was more than enough money to hire the best lawyers in all of Portland. It was enough to challenge Jake and Marcus Brennan in court. It was enough to save Rose's kitchen and all my grandmother built. But it was also proof that she believed in me and trusted me to protect her legacy. She knew I would not give up. I folded the letter with great care and placed it back inside the book with the certificate and card. Then I got up and walked to the window, gazing down at the street. The city lights were just beginning to turn on, creating long shadows on the sidewalk. Somewhere in the city, Jake was with Maya, believing he had won. He thinks I am too defeated and too afraid to challenge him, but he is mistaken. Abuela provided me with the tools to fight back. Now I must learn how to use them. Tomorrow I will call Benjamin Hartley. I will give him the lab report, the emails, and the fake signatures. I will show him all of it. Then I will access the trust fund and begin my fight. It was Wednesday afternoon, February 21st, shortly after 3 o'clock, when I walked into the offices of Hartley and Associates on 3rd Avenue in downtown Portland. The structure was an old pre-war brick building with tall ceilings and elegant molding. It was the type of place that smelled of polished wood and historic law books. A receptionist with silver hair smiled as I walked in. You must be Zoe Martinez. Mr. Hartley is waiting for you. She walked me down a long hall decorated with framed diplomas and old black and white pictures of Portland. My heart was beating fast. I had called that morning, stumbling over my words. My name is Zoe Martinez. My grandmother was Rosa Martinez. I must speak with Benjamin Hartley. It is very important. 30 seconds later, they had scheduled me for 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And here I was, holding my purse with Abuela's letter, the lab report, the emails, and the divorce documents, all organized inside a large envelope. The receptionist paused at a wooden door with a brass plaque that read Benjamin Hartley, Esquire. She knocked lightly, then pushed the door open. Zoe Martinez is here to see you. A warm, confident voice from inside said, Send her in. I entered the office as he was standing to greet me, coming out from behind his desk. Benjamin Hartley looked exactly how I thought he would. He was in his mid-60s with neatly combed silver hair, gold-rimmed glasses, and a gray suit that was old but still looked dignified. He held out his hand. Zoe, he said. The way he said my name felt so familiar, as if he had known me forever, and it made my throat feel tight. Please, have a seat. I sat down in a leather chair while he returned to his, folding his hands on the desk. He studied my face for a moment with a gentle, sad look. You look so much like her, he said softly. Like Rosa. You have the same eyes, the same spirit. I blinked quickly, trying not to let the tears come. Not yet. You must have known her for a long time. For 40 years, he replied. She first came to me in 1984, right when she was starting Rose's Kitchen. We became good friends. She was one of the toughest women I have ever met. She talked about you constantly. She was so very proud. A pain grew in my chest. She told you about the trust fund. Yes, she did, he confirmed, his tone becoming more serious. 10 years ago. She created it with money she had saved for 30 years, $850,000. She made me promise not to tell a soul, not even you, unless somebody tried to take the restaurant from you. I gave a slow nod. Someone is trying. I took the large envelope from my purse and placed it on his desk. Benjamin opened it and carefully examined each document. He started with Abuela's letter, and I watched his expression become tense as he read. Next was the report from Providence Medical Lab. His eyes grew wide when he saw the word Ipecac. Then he looked at the divorce papers with the fake signature, followed by the printed emails from Marcus Brennan. He reviewed every single line and his face grew angrier with each page he turned. When he was done, he laid the papers down and looked directly at me. Zoe, he said, his voice calm but filled with anger. This is more than just fraud. This is attempted murder. I know, I said in a quiet voice. That is why I came to you. I need your help. Benjamin leaned across the desk. You have my help, and you still have Rosa's. She suspected someone might come after you and the restaurant. That is the reason she created the trust with that specific rule. It can only be used if there is evidence that someone is trying to steal Rose's kitchen. He pointed to the documents. And this is your evidence. It is clear, documented, and cannot be denied. A wave of relief washed over me. So I can get the money? Yes, he confirmed, but we must move quickly. I am going to file an emergency request with the Multnomah County Court this afternoon. We will ask for three things. First, a temporary restraining order to freeze all of your marital property, which includes Rose's kitchen. That will stop Jake from selling it or changing ownership. Second, the immediate release of the trust fund to give you the money you need. And third, a formal investigation into Jake Carson's criminal actions, including forgery, fraud, and poisoning. My heart began to pound. How long will that take? For an emergency request like this with such strong proof, a judge can make a decision within 48 hours. If the judge approves it, Jake will not be able to touch Rose's kitchen and you will have full access to the $850,000. I finally exhaled, not realizing I had been holding my breath. And what about the poisoning? Benjamin's face grew stern. That is a police matter. The court can order an investigation, but you will have to cooperate with the police. Do you have anyone you can call there? I immediately thought of Sarah, Detective Sarah Morgan. We had been friends in high school. I had not called her yet, but now seemed like the right time. I do, I said. Benjamin nodded. Good. Because as soon as we file this, Jake will realize something is happening. He will start to panic. Panicked people can be very dangerous. You need to have someone watching out for you. I will, I promised. He stood up and I did as well. He came around his desk and put his hand on my shoulder, just like Abuela used to. Rosa loved you more than anything in this world, Zoe. She would be incredibly proud of you at this moment. My eyes welled up with tears, and this time I let them fall. I miss her terribly. I know, he said softly, but she is still with you. She is in you, in Rose's kitchen, and in this fight that you are about to win. I left his office 1 hour later, carrying a copy of the emergency petition and a court date for Friday morning, February 23rd. Walking to my car, I saw the afternoon sun peek through the gray Portland sky, and I felt something I had not felt for weeks: hope. My grandmother protected me even after she was gone. She gave me the means to fight, and now, with Benjamin's guidance, I was going to use it. But Jake was still out there. He was still scheming and he was still a threat. I needed help to catch him. I needed someone to make sure he paid for what he had done. I took out my phone and scrolled to a specific contact, Sarah Morgan. We had not spoken in a few months, but I knew if anyone could help me, it would be her. I pressed the call button. It was Saturday morning, February 24th, a little after 11, when I sat down in a booth at Stumptown Coffee Roasters on Southeast Division Street. I ordered a black coffee, plain, 10 days had gone by since Detective Sarah Morgan had stopped me from confronting Jake and my sister at my own restaurant. I was meeting her now because I finally had real evidence to present to her. Yesterday, the judge had approved Benjamin Hartley's emergency request. Jake was now legally barred from Rose's kitchen. The restraining order was official, and the trust fund from my grandmother was now mine. But a simple restraining order was not good enough. I wanted to see Jake in jail. That is the reason I called Sarah last night. Sarah entered the coffee shop at 11:15. She wore jeans and a black leather jacket, with her badge visible on her belt. She moved through the busy cafe with the same watchful confidence she had 10 days prior. She saw me right away and sat down across from me. "Zoe?" she said softly. "How are you doing?" I looked her in the eye. "I am doing okay because you stopped me that day. If you had not been there, I would have ruined my entire case. Thank you, Sarah." She nodded. "I am glad I was there to help. Now what have you found?" I took out a thick folder and pushed it across the table toward her. It was so much worse than an affair. For 3 months, Jake had been poisoning me. He was working with a man named Marcus Brennan to steal my restaurant, and they were planning something much more sinister. I watched Sarah's face change as she opened the folder. Her eyes went wide when she saw the toxicology report. Her jaw clenched as she read the emails between Jake and Marcus. With every page she turned, her expression grew darker. The first page was the lab report. It showed the coffee sample contained 15 milliliters of ipecac syrup. That was enough to cause constant nausea, vomiting, and extreme weakness. Sarah just muttered, "Jesus." "How long has he been poisoning you?" she asked. 3 months, from November to February, I replied. Every single morning, he made me a cup of coffee with poison in it. I just thought I was getting sick. The doctors could not find anything wrong. The entire time, Jake was just making me weaker. He wanted me too tired to fight back when he tried to take the restaurant. Sarah then turned to the emails between Jake and Marcus. I saw the words that were burned into my mind. "Make sure she's weak enough to sign." Then another one. "The Ipecac is working. She's losing weight and has no energy." Once I signed, they would wire $2.8 million to an offshore account. She put the papers down and looked at me, her eyes filled with fury. "This is attempted murder," she said. "Poisoning someone to force them to do something is aggravated assault at the very least. We could even be looking at attempted homicide," she continued, tapping Marcus's email. "And Marcus Brennan will go down as an accomplice. This is conspiracy and financial exploitation. They are facing serious prison time." "There is more," I said, pulling out the fake divorce papers. "I also had a business valuation for $2.8 million and the fake fertility clinic papers Jake gave my sister Maya. He actually had a vasectomy 5 years ago. I also had photos of Jake and Maya together at hotels and restaurants." Sarah reviewed everything carefully, taking notes. When she was done, she let out a long breath. "This is one of the most well-documented cases of abuse and fraud I have seen in 10 years, she said. "We have toxicology, emails, financial records, and photos. Do you want me to arrest Jake right now?" I shook my head no. "Benjamin said the evidence is strong, but it is not direct," I explained. "The lab proves poison was in the coffee, but not that Jake put it there. The emails show Marcus wanted the restaurant, not that Jake was forcing me. If we arrested him now, his lawyer would create reasonable doubt." I leaned in closer. "I need direct evidence. I need a video of Jake poisoning my coffee or a recording of him admitting it." Sarah nodded in agreement. "So we set a trap," she said. "Install hidden cameras in your house, especially the kitchen. Oregon law allows you to record conversations without his consent, and you can legally record inside your own home. You need to get him talking. Ask him careful questions so he feels safe enough to admit what he did." She looked through the papers again. "What about Marcus and your sister?" My jaw tightened at the thought of them. "Follow them, document their meetings," Sarah instructed. "If you can catch Jake, Marcus, and Maya all discussing the plan together, that proves conspiracy. 3 people coordinating a crime, is that a sure thing?" I asked. Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce. "We are going to get him, Zoe, I promise you that, but you have to be smart and patient. If Jake figures out you know what he is doing, he could become more dangerous. He might panic and do something even worse." She then pulled out a business card and wrote a second phone number on the back. "That is my personal cell phone," she said. "If you feel unsafe, or if Jake threatens you in any way, call 911 first. Then you call me immediately, day or night. Do you understand?" I took the card from her and nodded. "Understood. Thank you, Sarah." She offered a small, reassuring smile. "You are stronger than you realize, but I am glad I can help." She stood up and gathered the files. "I am going to run background checks on Marcus Brennan and his financial ties to Jake. You go buy the cameras, set them up, and record everything. When we are done, Jake Carson is going to spend a very, very long time in prison. I watched her leave. For the first time since my world shattered, I felt a tiny glimmer of hope. It was Wednesday night, February 28th, a quarter to 10. I was sitting on my bed with my laptop watching footage from a hidden camera. I had installed it 4 days ago. The camera was tiny, smaller than a lipstick, and hidden in a picture frame on Jake's desk. The picture was of us on our wedding day, smiling like we had forever. I bought it online for $89 with 2 day shipping. It records both video and audio and saves it all to a secret cloud account. Sarah told me to document everything, and that is exactly what I was doing. Every night after Jake fell asleep, I would watch the day's recordings. I fast forwarded through hours of him just typing or talking on the phone. Most of it was useless. But tonight I found something. The video was from the day before, February 27th, at 2:47 in the afternoon. I was at my restaurant, Rose's Kitchen, getting ready for dinner. The video showed Jake alone in his office with the phone to his ear. I turned up the volume. His voice was perfectly clear. Rick, it is Jake Carson. We met at the contractor event last month. There was a pause. I could hear a man's muffled voice on the other end. Yeah, I remember you. What is going on? I need you to do a job for me, Jake said, leaning back. It is at a restaurant, Rose's Kitchen, on 428 Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard. Okay, the man said. What kind of job? A gas line inspection, Jake said smoothly. But I need you to do something very specific, he continued. I need you to loosen one of the valves, not all the way, just enough to create a slow leak, something that no one would notice right away. There was a long, heavy silence from the other end of the line. Then the man asked, Are you serious? Dead serious, Jake replied, and I will pay you $5,000 in cash. No receipts, no paperwork, just you, me, and the job. Another pause followed, even longer this time. The man started to say, If there is a gas leak and someone is inside, that is the point, Rick, Jake interrupted. His voice was cold and calm, like he was ordering food. I need this done on the night of October 28th, around 8 in the evening. I will make sure she is in the kitchen alone after we close. My blood ran cold. She? Rick asked. Who is she? My wife, Jake said. And I need to make sure she does not walk out. I hit the pause button. My hands were shaking so much that I almost dropped the laptop. I rewound the video 10 seconds and played it again. I need to make sure she does not walk out. I played it a third time, then a fourth. Each time his words felt like a punch to my stomach. Jake was not just trying to steal my restaurant, he was planning to kill me. He was hiring someone to cause a gas leak and blow up the building with me inside it. I pressed play, making myself watch the rest. Rick's voice came back, quiet and hesitant. Man, I do not know about this. That is really dangerous, Rick said. If someone dies, no one will trace it back to you, Jake said, cutting him off. It will look like a terrible accident, an old building, a faulty gas line, a tragic explosion. The fire department will rule it accidental. My wife will be gone. I will inherit the restaurant as her grieving husband and I will sell it the very next day. It is clean and simple, and you will have $5,000 in your pocket. I need to think about it, Rick finally said. You have until March 15th, Jake told him. After that, the offer is gone. Call me. The line went dead. Jake put his phone down, stretched, and went back to his work as if he had not just hired a man to murder me. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark, staring at the wall. October 28th, that was 8 months away. For 8 months, Jake had been planning this. For 8 months, he had lived with me, kissed me, and pretended to love me, all while plotting my murder. I felt sick to my stomach. I stumbled into the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger. She was pale with hollow eyes full of terror, but beneath that fear I felt something new, a white-hot, burning anger. Jake poisoned me for 3 months. He forged my name. He plotted with Marcus Brennan to steal my grandmother's legacy. He slept with my sister. And now he was trying to kill me. He wanted me gone. He wanted me erased so he could take everything and start a new life with Maya. I gripped the sink, my breathing heavy. No, I whispered. I am not going to let him. I went back to the bedroom and opened my laptop. I saved 3 copies of the video file. One went to my phone, one went to a flash drive that I hid in my purse, and one went to a secret email account. Then I sent a text message to Sarah. I have something. Can we meet tomorrow morning? It is urgent. She replied in 30 seconds. 7 in the morning at my office. What is it? I paused for a moment, then typed, Jake hired someone to kill me. I have it on video. 3 dots appeared, then her reply came. Jesus Christ, Zoe, are you safe right now? Yes, I typed back. He is asleep. I am fine. Lock your bedroom door. Do not let him in. I will see you at 7, she wrote. I got up and locked the door. Then I sat back on the bed and watched the video one last time. October 28th, he chose the date, the method, and the place. But he made one huge mistake. He had no idea that I was watching. He had no idea I was recording his every word, and now I had the proof. It was direct, undeniable proof that Jake Carson tried to hire someone to murder me. Tomorrow, I will give it to Sarah and we will stop him. But tonight, I just sat in the dark listening to my husband breathing in the other room, and I realized something important. I was not afraid anymore. I am ready. October 28th is 8 months from now. But my husband Jake has no idea that I know his plan. By the time he figures it out, it will be over. It was Tuesday, March 5th, a little after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I stepped into Anderson Investigations, a downtown Portland office on Southwest Morrison Street. The air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and cigarettes, ignoring the no smoking sign. A man in his 50s with short gray hair sat at a messy desk filled with folders and coffee cups. He looked up as I entered. Zoe Martinez? He asked. I confirmed it was me. Tom Anderson, he said, standing to shake my hand firmly. Please have a seat. I sat down opposite him, holding my purse tightly on my lap. I had hired Tom 5 days earlier. It was right after I presented Sarah with the video. The video showed Jake paying Rick Donovan to end my life. Sarah launched a formal investigation, got a warrant, and advised me to stay hidden. But I could not just wait. I had to learn more. I needed to know Jake's reasons, and I had to find out how involved my sister Maya truly was. That is why I hired Tom. I instructed him to trail Jake and Maya, to record all their actions, to learn their plans. Now a thick manila folder slid across the desk. A preliminary report, Tom announced. I have followed them for 5 days. They are not being careful. I pulled the folder open. The first thing I saw was a typed summary, followed by pages of photographs. There were so many photos. I saw Jake and Maya going into the Marriott downtown hotel. I saw them holding hands at a quiet table at Clyde Common. I saw them in a Fred Meyer parking lot, kissing. A knot formed in my stomach, but I continued. They get together 3 times a week, Tom explained, relaxing in his chair. Always the Marriott, always between 2 and 5 p.m. while you're at work. They use a fake name, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, and Jake pays in cash. I nodded, my eyes still on the pictures. What else did you find? Your sister is visiting a fertility doctor, Tom stated. The Portland Fertility Center on Northeast Gleon. I tailed her there twice just last week. She has regular appointments Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. I raised my head, processing his words. A fertility doctor. Yes, it seems she wants to have a baby. Tom produced another picture. It showed Maya leaving the clinic, carrying a folder. From what I have gathered, her visit started in January. She seems very committed to the idea of a family. My chest felt heavy. Maya and my husband Jake, having a child. Does she know about me? I asked in a low voice. Tom just shrugged. It is difficult to know, but from how they act, I believe so. They behave like a couple with serious plans. She mentions a restaurant she wants to open, named Maya's Table, and he discusses relocating to Seattle. They are only keeping their relationship a secret from you. I shut my eyes and took a slow breath. What is this one? Tom passed another photograph over to me. This one showed Jake and Maya at the cafe inside Powell's City of Books. Jake held a document up for Maya to see. She was smiling as she read it. I took this yesterday, Tom said. I was not close enough to read it, but it seemed official, perhaps a medical report. I focused on the picture, a medical report. An idea began to form in my mind. Let me look at that again. Tom gave me the photo. I used my phone's camera to zoom in on the image. The document in Jake's hand had a logo. It read Oregon Wellness Clinic. Below that, it listed the patient as Jake Carson. The diagnosis was a low sperm count from an old injury. The treatment involved testosterone therapy. The estimated completion was December 2024. My heart seemed to stop beating. What did you find? Tom asked. I have to make a phone call, I said, grabbing my phone. I called Sarah, who picked up right away. Zoe, is everything all right? I need a favor, I said. I need you to look at Jake's medical history. I have to know if he has ever had a vasectomy. There was a moment of silence. Why? Because I believe he is deceiving Maya. He showed her a false medical report about getting fertility treatments. I have to find out the real story. Hold on, Sarah replied. I could hear her typing. With the criminal case open, I have a warrant for his files. Just a moment. I waited, my heart racing in my chest. Tom watched me with a curious expression but said nothing. Okay, Sarah said at last. I have his file open. Jake Michael Carson, born April 12th, 1988. Oh my goodness, Zoe. What is it? He had a vasectomy, Sarah said, her voice slow. On August 15th, 2019. It was at Oregon Health and Science University. It is listed right here. A permanent procedure with no record of reversal. 2019, 3 years before we were married. The lie had been going on for our entire relationship. Sarah, I managed to say, my voice unsteady. He told me he just was not ready for children. He promised we would discuss it later. He was not honest, Sarah said softly. And if he showed your sister a fake medical file about his fertility, then he is deceiving her as well, I concluded. I ended the call, my hands shaking. Tom's eyes were still on me. Bad news? He had a vasectomy, I told him. 5 years ago, he has been lying to my sister and to me. I opened my laptop and signed into the cloud storage where I kept all my proof. I began looking through the phone messages I had saved from Jake's phone 2 weeks before. And then I found it, a message from Jake to Marcus Brennan from February 25th. It said, keep them hoping, bro. Hope is the best drug. Zoe will not leave as long as she thinks we will have kids, and Maya will do anything for me as long as she thinks she can get pregnant. It is easy. I read the message again and again, my eyes filled with tears. Jake did not love me. He did not love Maya. He was incapable of love. He had manipulated both of us. He made false promises to keep us around. He was poisoning me to make me too sick to stop him from taking Rosa's kitchen. He was lying to Maya about a future so that she would assist him. And through it all, his plan was to have me killed, take over the restaurant, sell it for cash, and then vanish. My sister Maya was just another piece in his game like me, but she was not aware of it yet. I shut my laptop and turned to Tom. Can you continue to watch them? As long as the money is there, I will keep watching. Good, I replied. I want you to get everything pictures, audio, places, times, all of it. I understand. I left his office holding the folder, feeling a deep emptiness inside me. Jake cared for nothing but money, power, and being in charge. And Maya, my sister, who I once read stories to and whose hair I used to braid, was simply a tool for him to use. A part of me wanted to give her a warning, to let her know she was being played. But another part, the one that saw her with my husband, heard her laugh about her own restaurant, and knew she texted him about his baby, that part felt she should learn her lesson painfully. Jake deceived us both, but now I was the only one who knew the full story, and I would use that knowledge. 7.5 months had passed since I discovered the video. It had been 7 months since I showed Detective Sarah Morgan the recording of Jake planning my death inside Rosa's kitchen. 7 months of careful planning and waiting. We created a detailed plan after I brought the video to Sarah in March. Sarah's first instinct was to arrest Jake right away, but I talked her into waiting. An early arrest would allow him to hire a good attorney and argue it was all just talk. But if we were patient, let him believe he was succeeding, and caught him at the very end, he would be trapped. It would be conspiracy and attempted murder with no escape. So we were patient. Sarah started her investigation and obtained warrants. She found Rick Donovan and questioned him in secret. Rick told her everything. Jake had paid him $5,000 in cash to tamper with the gas line at my restaurant. Rick's job was to do it 3 days before October 28th and then leave town. Jake would ensure I was by myself in the kitchen on that specific night. Gas would fill the room. I would turn on the stove and it would explode. A terrible accident. A grieving widow takes over the business, sells it, and leaves with the money. But I knew his plan. And now, 3 days before his deadline, it was my turn to act. It was Friday, October 25th, a little after 2 o'clock. I stood in my restaurant's kitchen with my phone. Oregon Natural Gas, this is Brenda. How can I assist you? Hello, I said, forcing my voice to be steady. I'm calling from Rosa's kitchen. I believe we have a gas leak. I have noticed a smell near our stove for a couple of days. All right, ma'am. We handle these calls with urgency. I will dispatch a technician to you immediately. Could you verify the address? 428 Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard in Portland. Excellent. We will have someone there in less than an hour. Please avoid any open flames. If the smell worsens, you must evacuate the building. I understand. Thank you. I ended the call and began to wait. 50 minutes passed before a white van from Oregon Natural Gas arrived. A man in a blue uniform and a hard hat got out with his tools and a gas detector. I met him outside. Hi, I made the call. My name is Zoe Martinez, the owner. Eddie Parker, he replied with a handshake. Let us see what is going on. I showed him to the kitchen where he began to check the area around the stove with his equipment. After a moment, his brow furrowed. Ma'am, your instincts were spot on about this valve. He gestured to a brass fitting on the gas line behind the stove. It has been loosened. It was not enough to cause an instant leak, but with the stove on high heat, gas would have gushed out. An explosion could have happened. My stomach churned, but my face remained calm. Can you repair it? Yes, absolutely. I will secure it right now and inspect the entire system. I will make sure everything is safe. He spent 20 minutes tightening bolts, checking fittings, and scanning every inch of the pipe with a gas detector. Finally, he stood up straight. Okay, you are all set. Everything is secure. There are no leaks. But I have to ask, do you have any idea how that valve came loose? That kind of thing does not just happen. I took a steadying breath. I am not sure. Perhaps something bumped against it. He shot me a doubtful glance but did not press the issue. All right, well, it is fixed. I will need to file a report with my company. Actually, I said, pulling $500 in cash from my bag. Could you help me with something? My husband gets very worried about things like this. If he learns I called the gas company, he will say I am being paranoid and we will have a massive argument. Could you just not file the report as a favor? This is a tip for your quick response. Eddie glanced at the money, then back at me. Ma'am, I am required to report every service call. I understand, I replied, but please, it is all fixed now. Everything is perfectly safe. I just want to avoid any conflict at home. He paused for a moment, then accepted the cash and put it in his pocket. Fine, but if you smell gas again, call us right away. Understood? I will. Thank you so much. After he left, I bolted the door and exhaled slowly. The first step was complete. The valve was now safe. But neither Jake nor Rick knew that. They believed the trap was still set, but I needed a backup plan. I had to have my own way to control the gas just in case. I picked up the phone and made another call. Walsh Gas Consulting. This is David. Hi, David. My name is Zoe Martinez. I require a remote shutoff valve to be installed on a commercial gas line, hopefully today. The cost is not an issue. Today is very busy, but I can fit you in around 6 p.m. What is the address? At 6 o'clock precisely, David Walsh arrived in a plain truck. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair, dressed in jeans and a flannel shirt. My friend Sarah had recommended him as discreet and professional. I showed him in through the back. Let me see the line, he said. I led him into the kitchen. He inspected the main shutoff valve, the fittings, and all the pipes. You want the remote valve put in right here? Yes, I need something I can operate from my phone to shut off the gas from any location. He looked at me with a curious expression. Are you dealing with some sort of problem? Let us just say I need full control over my own property. He gave a slow nod. I understand. I can install a smart valve with a cellular link. You will be able to turn it off using an application on your phone. It will take about 2 hours. The cost is $1,200. Perfect. David worked with quiet focus. He installed a small motorized valve behind the stove, wired it to a control box on the wall, and connected it to an app on my phone. Once he was done, he showed me his own phone. Here, get this application, Gas Safe Pro. I have already connected your valve. Do you see that button? I saw a red button on the screen that said Emergency Shutoff. If you push that, the valve will close immediately. The gas flow will stop. Your stove and oven will not turn on. Everything will shut down, and to turn it back on, press the green button, but for safety, I suggest you do it manually at the valve itself. Excellent. I paid him $1,200 in cash from the trust. He put the money in his pocket, nodded, and departed without saying anything else. I stood in the quiet kitchen, holding my phone and looking at the application. Just one button controlled everything. I had to test it. I pushed the red button. The valve made a clicking sound as it closed. I pushed the green button. It clicked open. I repeated this 3 more times to ensure it worked perfectly. I ordered a handheld gas detector online for 2-day delivery, arriving Sunday. I put my phone away. The kitchen was secure. I was in control of the gas, and Jake was completely unaware. I went to the front window and peered out at the street. The sun was going down, creating long orange shadows on the road. In 3 days, Jake would enter that door, expecting my death. He would expect the restaurant to blow up. He would expect to inherit it all and get away with it, but he was mistaken. October 28th was not going to be my last day. It was going to be the day Jake Carson was caught, and I would be the one lighting the fuse. It was Sunday night, October 27th, and I sat by myself in the back office of Rose's kitchen. My phone was in my hand and my stomach was in knots. Tomorrow was October 28th, the day Jake had planned for my murder, the day it would all be over. The restaurant is always closed on Sundays, leaving the dining area dark and silent. I could only hear the low hum of the kitchen refrigerator and the soft ticking of the old clock my abuela put up 30 years ago. Outside, a heavy rain was falling, beating on the windows like thousands of tiny knuckles. I launched the Text Now application on my phone. I had downloaded it yesterday to get a disposable number that was untraceable. I had used it to message Sarah without Jake knowing. Tonight, its purpose was different. I was going to use it to set a trap for my sister. I looked at the empty message field, my thumb ready to type. This was the moment. This was how I would lure Maya into my trap. A small, foolish part of me wanted to phone her, to give her a warning, to let her know Jake was playing her, that he was going to discard her as soon as she was no longer useful. I wanted to tell her about his vasectomy, the falsified medical papers, and the texts where Jake joked about her hopes for a baby, but I could not. Maya had made her decision. She picked Jake. She chose to be with my husband. She decided to help him take Rose's kitchen from me, and tomorrow she would have to deal with the outcome. I took a long, slow breath and began to write. The message had to be a perfect imitation of Jake. It had to be just the right blend of arrogance and urgency. I had spent months reading his messages. I knew his style. I wrote, Babe, Zoe is having a surprise anniversary party tomorrow, October 28th at 8 p.m. at Rose's. She is trying to get me back. She invited my mom and our friends to pressure me into staying. This is actually perfect. With so many witnesses, the accident will seem even more believable. No one will ever know. Just arrive like a regular guest. Be nice to Zoe. When it happens after everyone goes home around 10 p.m., we will both have perfect alibis. Do not text me back. Zoe is watching me closely. Trust me, baby. After tomorrow, we will finally be free. I love you. I reviewed it 3, then 4 times, checking that every word was right. I made sure the story was believable. I had to be certain Maya would fall for it. Then I pressed send. The message was delivered. I placed my phone on the desk and watched it, my heart racing. What if she did not buy it? What if she called Jake? What if she just did not come? I looked at the time, 7:34 p.m. I waited for 1 minute, then 2, then 5. My phone vibrated. I grabbed it, nearly fumbling. It was a text from Maya. Okay, babe, I will be there. After tomorrow, it will all be ours, right? I read the message and a part of me broke. It will all be ours. She actually believed him. She was convinced that Jake loved her, that he would divorce me for her, that they would open their restaurant, Maya's Table, and live a wonderful life with the money from selling my family's restaurant. She was clueless that Jake had a vasectomy 5 years ago. She did not know he had lied about starting a family with her. She did not realize that once he had what he wanted, he would vanish, leaving her with absolutely nothing. Or even worse, he would frame her for everything. I typed my reply, still pretending to be Jake. We will have it all, baby, I promise. See you then, wear something pretty, and do not forget to act shocked when you arrive. Her response was immediate. I will. I love you. I exited the application, erased the chat, and cleared the memory. I sat alone in the dark office, staring into space, feeling a deep emptiness. I did not feel victorious or smart. I just felt an overwhelming sadness. Because tomorrow, Maya would arrive at Rose's kitchen expecting to get her dream life. Instead, she was about to lose everything. But I could not let that deter me. Not at this point. Not after all Jake had done. I got up, put my phone in my pocket, and walked over to the window. The rain continued to fall, smearing the lights from the cars on Hawthorne Boulevard. Somewhere out there, Jake was likely at home, texting Maya, planning his story for the police about his wife's tragic accident. And somewhere out there, Maya was happy, believing she had succeeded. But tomorrow, they would both discover the truth. The trap would spring shut tomorrow. I moved away from the window, locked the office, and drove home. My plan was in place. I had control of the gas. The evidence was backed up in 3 separate locations. Sarah was aware of the entire plan. The guests had been invited, and Maya had just confirmed her attendance. Tomorrow night, October 28th at 8 p.m., everyone I needed would be gathered in that room. And by the time I was finished, both Jake Carson and Maya Martinez would be in police custody. All was set. Tomorrow, it would finally be over. It was Monday morning, October 28th, at 6 o'clock sharp when I woke up and reached for my phone. No alarm was needed. I did not need sleep. I only had 2 hours anyway. Today was the day. I opened my Gas Safe Pro application and pressed the big red button for an emergency shutoff. 2 miles away, the valve in Rose's kitchen clicked shut. There would be no gas, no explosion, and no accident. Jake's terrible plan was over. I got dressed in the dark, pulling on black jeans and a gray sweater. I folded my grandmother's apron into my bag. I drove through the empty, rain-slicked streets of Portland to Rose's kitchen. I unlocked the back door and went inside. The restaurant was quiet and cold. The air held the faint scent of cumin and cinnamon. like ghosts of meals past. I flipped on the lights, tied on Abuela's apron, and started working. I was not just cooking a meal today. I was building my case. There would be 7 courses for 7 sins. These 7 pieces of evidence would dismantle Jake Carson. They would ruin everything he tried to steal from me. I began with the menu. I wrote it by hand on a chalkboard that would hang in the dining room. Course 1, bitter coffee for the ipecac poisoning. Course 2, the forged contract for the fake signature and fraud. Course 3, broken promises for the vasectomy lies. Course 4, the betrayal for the affair and infidelity. Course 5, the murder plot for the gas leak and conspiracy. Course 6, ambition for Maya's table and his greed. And course 7, the truth for justice and a final reckoning. I stepped back to look at it. It was perfect. It was cold, clinical, and exactly what was needed. Then I started on the food. The first course was simple. I brewed a pot of coffee that was dark, bitter, and strong. I poured 1 cup and placed it on a tray. Beside it, I put a printed copy of the report from Providence Medical Lab. It read, Ipecac syrup detected 15 milliliters per 250 milliliter sample. This is what Jake had served me every morning for 3 months. This is how he tried to wear me down. The second course was a deconstructed salad. It had greens, vinegar, and sharp cheese. I served it on a glass plate with the forged business contract visible underneath. My signature was faked. The price was $2.8 million. Marcus Brennan's name was at the bottom. The third course was pan-seared salmon with a lemon reduction sauce. It was delicate, beautiful, and bitter. I placed it next to a printed record of Jake's vasectomy from the university hospital. The date was August 15th, 2019. That was 3 years before he married me. It was 5 years before he told Maya that he wanted a child with her. The fourth course was roasted lamb with rosemary and garlic. I served it with a side of printed text messages between Jake and Maya. One said, I love you, babe. After this is done, we will have it all. Maya's table will open next spring. 18 months of their lives were plated like an entree. Course 5 was the most difficult. I made a dish Abuela used to serve, chiles en nogada. It has poblano peppers stuffed with meat and spices. It is topped with a white walnut sauce and pomegranate seeds. This dish takes hours to make. It requires patience, care, and love. I served it with a printed transcript of a recording from a hidden camera. Jake's voice was perfectly clear. He said, I need you to loosen the valve for a slow leak. I will make sure she is in the kitchen alone. Then you hear Rick Donovan's voice. He said, if someone dies, Jake, they will never trace it to you. Course 6 was a tres leches cake for dessert. It was my grandmother's recipe, the one she taught me when I was 8 years old. I plated it with a printed email from Marcus Brennan to Jake. It said, once the power of attorney is signed, we can close on Rose's kitchen. Wire the $2.8 million and you can start fresh with M in Seattle. Maya's table will open in the third quarter of 2025. The seventh course was just a single square of dark chocolate on a plain white plate. There was no garnish and no explanation. It was just the truth, bitter and simple. I spent the morning plating and photographing every dish. I needed backups in case anything went wrong. At noon, Carmen Foster came with a van full of supplies. She brought portable electric cooktops, serving dishes, and extra plates. She had prepared half the menu at her own restaurant so I would not be overwhelmed. Besides Sarah, she was the only one who knew what was really happening. Are you ready for this? She asked. She placed a tray of empanadas on the counter. I have been ready since February, I told her. She nodded and did not ask any more questions. That is why I love her. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, all the food was prepared. I covered everything and put it in the walk-in cooler. Next, I went to the dining room. I set up a folding screen at the end of the room. I mounted a projector on a tripod and plugged in my laptop. I tested the slideshow I created last week. It had crime scene photos, email chains, and bank statements. It also had the video of Jake hiring Rick Donovan. It was everything I needed to end him. At 3 o'clock, Sarah Morgan stopped by. She was off duty, wearing jeans and a bomber jacket, but I could see the badge on her belt. Are you good? She asked. I am good. Jake still has no idea what is coming. She nodded. I will be here at 7:45. I will sit in the back and pretend to be a guest. If things get out of hand, I am 2 seconds away. They will not get out of hand, I said. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she squeezed my shoulder. Your grandmother would be so proud of you. I could not trust myself to speak, so I just nodded. At 5 o'clock, I began to set the tables. There were 15 place settings with white tablecloths, candles, and name cards. I put Jake at the head of the table, Maya was to his right, and Marcus Brennan was to his left. My seat was at the other end, directly facing him. It was the position of power. At 6 o'clock, I hung the chalkboard menu. It listed the 7 courses for 7 sins. At 6:30, I changed into a black dress. I pinned my hair up and put on the silver earrings Abuela gave me. I looked in the mirror and did not recognize the person staring back. I looked older, stronger, and prepared. At 7 o'clock, I lit the candles. The dining room glowed with soft, warm light. It looked like a beautiful painting or a beautiful trap. I stood in the doorway and looked at it all: the tables, the projector, the evidence, and the food. I had everything I needed to end this nightmare. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. On my way. See you soon, babe. I did not answer. Then another text came from Maya. Almost there? Nervous but excited? I smiled a cold, thin smile. She had every reason to be nervous. At 7:30, I opened a bottle of wine. I poured a glass for myself but did not drink it. I just held it, feeling its weight in my hand. Everything was in place. The dinner party was ready to begin, and Jake had no idea that tonight he was the main course. Before I show you what happened on October 28th, the night I served justice for dinner, comment truth below. That way I will know you are ready. What comes next is going to shock you. A quick note: some details have been changed for educational purposes. If you are not comfortable with intense confrontations, this might be a good time to stop. The dining room of Rose's kitchen was lit by the soft glow of 24 candles. Their flames flickered in the cool October air coming through a nearby window. I stood at the host stand. I was wearing a deep burgundy dress I chose just for this evening. It was elegant and confident. It was the kind of dress a woman wears when she knows her own power. The air smelled of roasted garlic and fresh basil. I could also smell the sweetness of caramelized onions from the kitchen. I had spent the last 3 hours preparing a 5 course meal no one would forget. My hands were steady. I smoothed the white tablecloth one last time. I adjusted the single red rose in the vase. I checked my phone. It was 7:58 in the evening. In 2 minutes, my first guest would arrive. The trap I had been building for 8 months would finally close. At exactly 8:05, the door opened. Jake stepped inside. His broad shoulders filled the doorway. His smile was warm and familiar, but it was completely fake. He was wearing the charcoal gray suit I bought for our first anniversary. He always said it made him feel invincible. He crossed the room quickly and pulled me into an embrace. He kissed my forehead with the same false tenderness from our wedding day. Happy anniversary, sweetheart, he whispered into my hair. His voice was low and intimate. I made myself smile and lean into him. I had to play the part of the loving wife one last time. Thank you for coming, I whispered back. My fingers brushed against my phone where the remote gas shut-off application was open in my pocket. At 8:10 in the evening, Maya arrived. Her red hair was styled in an elegant knot. Her emerald green dress was designed to get Jake's attention. She stopped in the doorway and looked around with fake surprise. Zoe, you invited me, she said. Her voice was light, as if we were just old friends catching up. I thought I would just stop by to say hello. I smiled at her, but it was a smile with no warmth. Of course I invited you, Maya. You are part of the family. Her eyes quickly glanced at Jake before she looked away. At 8:15, Marcus Brennan came in. His silver hair was perfectly combed. His navy blue suit was spotless. He shook Jake's hand with firm confidence, like an old business partner. Jake, it is good to see you, Marcus said smoothly, patting his shoulder. Zoe, thank you for inviting me. Your grandmother's restaurant is a legend in this city. I nodded politely. I noticed Jake's smile get a little tighter. His eyes watched Marcus find his seat with the careful look of a predator watching a rival. At 8:20, Linda Carson, Jake's mother, walked in. Her silver hair was styled in soft waves. Her lavender blouse and pearl necklace made her look like a woman who had mastered the art of being graceful. She pulled me into a warm embrace, and her old-fashioned floral perfume surrounded me. My dear daughter-in-law, she said, her voice filled with sincere love. I am so proud of you both. 2 years already. Time truly flies when you are happy. I held her a little longer than I should have, feeling a stab of guilt because she did not know what her son had done. At 8:25 p.m., Detective Sarah Morgan showed up in a plain black blazer and jeans with her badge hidden inside her purse. She gave me a hug and a look that said she understood. Zoe, it has been too long, she said loudly for everyone to hear. I am so happy you asked me to celebrate with you. I gave her hand a quick squeeze, a quiet way of saying she was not here as a guest but as a witness. During the next 15 minutes, the last 10 guests arrived one after another. My Aunt Carmen came at 8:28 p.m., still in her nurse's uniform from her shift at Providence Hospital. My cousin Mateo and his wife Isabella arrived at 8:32 p.m. Their 2-year-old daughter, Anna, was fast asleep in her mother's arms. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, the elderly couple who were regulars at Rosa's kitchen for more than 20 years, came at 8:36 p.m. with a bottle of wine and kind smiles. Father Miguel from Our Lady of Sorrows, who married Jake and me 2 years ago, came at 8:40 p.m. He had a blessing for us and a prayer book under his arm. Jenny, my best friend from cooking school, arrived at 8:43 p.m. She had her camera around her neck because she always had it with her. Lastly, Benjamin Hartley, my lawyer, came at 8:47 p.m. His quiet presence was a promise that everything said tonight would be recorded and legally official. By 8:50 p.m., all 15 guests were sitting around the long table I had placed in the dining room, their faces lit by candles. Their conversations were a soft hum of laughs and chatter that made the room feel deceptively normal. I stood at the end of the table, raised my wine glass, and waited for the room to become quiet. Thank you all for coming tonight, I started, my voice strong and unwavering. 2 years ago, Jake and I stood in front of many of you and promised to love and cherish each other for our whole lives. Tonight, I wanted to honor that promise with the people who are most important to us. I stopped for a moment, looking at each person at the table. I saw Jake's confident grin, Maya's carefully blank face, Marcus Brennan's polite interest, Linda Carson's proud smile, Sarah Morgan's watchful gaze, and the others. They were all waiting, completely unaware of what was about to happen. I have cooked a very special dinner for you all tonight, I went on, my voice warm and welcoming. It has 5 courses, and each one is based on a memory from my grandmother Rose's recipes. But I also have something else to share with you. It is a story about trust, betrayal, and what people will do to protect the things they love. I noticed Jake's smile flicker for a brief moment. I saw his hand tighten on his wine glass, and I knew right then that he understood something was wrong. I put my glass down, walked slowly to the kitchen door, and pointed to the first course sitting on the counter. It was a simple dish of heirloom tomato bruschetta with a balsamic glaze and fresh basil. The first course is coming right out, I announced, turning back to my guests. And along with it, you will hear the first part of tonight's story. I looked at Jake across the table, holding his eyes for a long, meaningful second, and then I smiled. I believe all of you will find it very interesting. By 8:55 that night on October 28th, 2024, all 15 guests were in their seats at the long, candlelit table in Rosa's kitchen. Their faces were glowing with happy excitement for the celebration. I stood at the head of the table holding a silver tray, knowing the next 35 minutes would destroy every happy illusion in the room. I placed a white porcelain coffee cup right in front of Jake with steam rising from it, and I began. For 3 months, 90 days in a row, my husband brought me coffee every single morning, I said, my voice firm and clear. He acted so caring and thoughtful, but he never told me that each cup had 15 milliliters of ipecac syrup, a medicine used to cause severe vomiting. I took a folded toxicology report from my pocket and showed it to everyone. This is from Providence Medical Lab and is dated February 19th, 2024. It confirms poisoning from ipecac. Jake was making me sick on purpose, so I would be too weak to stop what he planned next. Jake's face turned white and his knuckles showed as he gripped the table, but I did not let him speak. I walked to the laptop on a side table and showed the first email on the wall. The second truth is about stealing, I said, my voice sharp and direct. This is an email from Marcus Brennan to Jake, dated November 3rd, 2023. It says, after you get power of attorney, the transfer will need 90 days. Make sure she is too weak to challenge it. And this is Jake's reply from January 22nd, 2024. The Ipecac is effective. She is losing weight and hardly has the energy for the kitchen. We will have everything by April. I looked at Marcus, whose face was stiff with anger he could barely contain. You made an offer of $2.8 million for my restaurant, Mr. Brennan. You assumed I would never discover the truth. Marcus stood up suddenly, but Sarah Morgan moved forward from her spot near the door, her hand resting on her badge. Sit down, she said calmly. You are not going anywhere. I pressed a key again, splitting the screen to show 2 medical reports. The third truth is about the lies Jake told my sister, I said, looking at Maya, who was clearly confused. On the left, you see a fertility report from Oregon Wellness Clinic, which states Jake has a low sperm count and is getting treatment. On the right is his real medical file from Oregon Health and Science University, dated August 15th, 2019. It shows he had a vasectomy 5 years ago. I let the room stay silent for 3 full seconds. The Oregon Wellness Clinic does not exist, Maya. Jake created that fake document to give you false hope and to keep you under his control. He was never going to give you a child, he was just using you. Maya's face fell apart as tears streamed down her cheeks while she looked at Jake. Is this real? She whispered. Jake did not answer. His jaw was so tight I could see the muscle twitching under his skin. The fourth truth appeared as a series of photos. Jake and Maya kissing in the Marriott lobby, walking hand in hand in Pioneer Courthouse Square, and hugging outside a wine bar on Northwest 23rd. I hired a private investigator who took these over the last 6 months, I explained. My own sister and my husband were having an affair while living under my roof. Linda Carson let out a pained gasp, putting her hands to her mouth as she stared at the pictures in disbelief. Jacob, she cried out, her voice filled with pain. How could you do this? Jake finally spoke, his voice low and frantic. Mom, this is not true. Zoe is twisting everything. I stopped him right there. Am I? I played an audio file and Jake's voice echoed from the laptop speakers. Rick, I need a favor. At Rosa's kitchen, there is a gas line behind the stove. Loosen the valve just a bit so it creates a slow leak. It should not be enough to smell at first, but enough so that when someone lights the stove, a man's rough voice answered, sounding suspicious. Are you talking about making an explosion? Jake's voice returned, cold and deliberate. I am talking about an accident. $5,000 in cash, October 28th after 8 p.m. The recording stopped and I held up my phone to show the remote gas shutoff application. The fifth truth is that he tried to murder me, I said. Jake paid Rick Donovan to rig this kitchen tonight. His plan was for this building to explode at 8 o'clock, killing me and everyone here, including his own mother, and to make it all seem like an accident. Linda fell forward, crying uncontrollably, and Aunt Carmen quickly went to hold her. Jake jumped up from his chair, his face flushed with anger. I did not want anyone else to be harmed, he yelled. It was only meant for... He cut himself off, realizing too late what he had just confessed. I showed the last piece of proof, which was text messages between Jake and Maya from October 1st. The sixth truth is about greed, I said. Jake wrote to Maya. When Zoe is gone, we will start our own restaurant, Maya's Table. Just us. Maya wrote back to Jake, I cannot wait. I love you. Maya dropped her face into her hands, her whole body shaking with sobs. I placed my phone down slowly on the table. And the seventh truth, I said, my voice becoming cold and final, is about justice. Sarah Morgan came forward. Her badge was now clearly visible on her belt, and her face was serious and firm. Jacob Carson, you are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and solicitation of arson, she stated. Marcus Brennan, you are under arrest for being an accessory to fraud. She took out handcuffs from her belt and secured them on Jake's wrists while he stood there in shock, his face completely pale. Detective James Torres came in through the back and put handcuffs on Marcus with the same swift skill. You have the right to remain silent, Sarah went on, her voice steady as she read the Miranda warning. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. I watched as Jake was led to the door at 9:28 p.m. on October 28th, 2024. His head hung low, his shoulders were slumped, and I felt a heavy weight lift from me. It was not a feeling of victory, but a calm feeling that justice was done. Maya was still at the table, crying into her hands. Linda Carson took my hand, her own eyes teary and red. Zoe, I am so sorry, she said quietly. I never knew. I gave her hand a gentle squeeze. I know, Linda, none of this was your fault. When the door shut behind Jake and Marcus at 9:30 at night, the room was quiet besides Maya's sobs. I looked at my guests who were shocked and sad but safe. They were all safe. It is done, I whispered. It is finally done. 5 minutes after Jake and Marcus were arrested at 9:30 at night, Detective Sarah Morgan stood in the middle of Rose's kitchen. It was 9:35 on the evening of October 28th, 2024. Her badge shone in the candlelight as she spoke to the stunned guests. They were still sitting around the table, their faces white with shock. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah started, her voice calm and in control. What you saw tonight was the end of an 8-month investigation into fraud, attempted murder, and poisoning. Please stay seated as my team secures the area and gathers evidence. She looked at Jake, who stood there cuffed, his face twisted in anger. Jacob Carson, you are being charged with several crimes. First, attempted murder for the gas explosion you planned to kill your wife and 14 other people. Second, poisoning for secretly giving her Ipecac syrup over a 90-day period from November 15th, 2023 to February 14th, 2024. Third, conspiracy to commit fraud by faking legal papers and a sale contract for Rose's Kitchen. worth $2.8 million. Fourth, trying to hire someone for arson and murder when you contacted Rick Donovan on February 27, 2024, offering $5,000 cash to tamper with the gas line here. And identity fraud by creating fake medical records from a made up place called the Oregon Wellness Clinic. Sarah listed each charge calmly, and each one hit Jake like a physical blow. His anger turned into desperation. "This is a trap!" Jake yelled, his voice breaking. "Zoe set this all up. She framed me." Sarah's expression remained unchanged. "Mr. Carson, we have you on a recording discussing the gas line sabotage. We have emails between you and Marcus Brennan about the poisoning and the property fraud. We also have lab reports, handwriting analysis, a statement from your wife's lawyer, Benjamin Hartley, and video from a hidden camera in your home office from February 27th. She paused, letting it all sink in. "You framed yourself." Then she turned to Marcus, who was stiff and silent next to Jake. His silver hair was a mess and his nice suit was wrinkled. "Marcus Brennan, you are charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, being an accessory to attempted murder, and illegal financial dealings. This is for working with Jacob Carson to steal Rose's kitchen using threats and forgeries. The emails between you and Mr. Carson from October 10th, 2023 to January 22nd, 2024 are clear proof that you plan to benefit from a crime against Mrs. Martinez." Maya was shaking by the far wall with tears on her face. Her hands were not cuffed, but she trembled with fear. Sarah walked toward her, her voice softer but still very serious. "Maya Martinez, on October 27th, 2024 at 7:30 in the evening, you got a text. It seemed to be from Jake, inviting you here to be his alibi for a deadly explosion. Is that right?" Maya nodded. Her voice was just a whisper. "Yes. He said Zoe was having a surprise party and he wanted me here. He said we could be together after." Her voice cracked. "He said it would seem like an accident and no one would figure it out. I just thought he meant the divorce would be easy. I didn't know he was going to hurt her." Sarah watched her for a moment. "Did you know he was poisoning her?" Maya shook her head hard. "No, I promise I didn't. I knew Jake was with me and wanted to leave Zoe, but I never imagined he would do something like that." Sarah took out a small recorder. "Maya, I am offering you an agreement. If you fully cooperate with the Portland Police Department and the District Attorney's Office, and if you testify against Jake Carson and Marcus Brennan, we can help you. If you give us any other evidence you have about their plans, we will lower your charges. This would mean a much shorter sentence. Do you understand?" Maya looked over at me. Her eyes were red and full of tears. "Zoe, please," she whispered. "I am so sorry. I was so foolish." I believed he loved me. I stood there without moving, my arms crossed, showing no emotion. I had no words for her. At 9:42 at night, Detective James Torres came in the back door. He was with two forensic experts who were carrying large black cases. "Sarah, we are prepared to start processing," he said. Sarah pointed to the laptop on a small table. "Bag the laptop, the coffee cup by Mr. Carson, and Mrs. Martinez's phone that has the remote gas shut-off application. Also take the printed papers she showed everyone. I want the gas valve behind the stove photographed and taken as evidence. David Walsh, the engineer for the remote shutoff, has already given us a signed statement about the sabotage by Rick Donovan." One of the technicians started taking pictures of the table, the laptop, and the gas valve. The other one put each item into evidence bags with labels. Torres went up to Jake and took a card from his pocket. "Mr. Carson, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to a lawyer before we talk and to have one with you during questioning. If you cannot pay for a lawyer, one will be given to you. If you choose to answer questions now without a lawyer, you can stop at any time and wait for one. Now that I have explained your rights, are you willing to talk to me without a lawyer here?" Jake just stared at him with his jaw tight and said nothing at all. At 9:50 at night, Sarah and Torres walked Jake and Marcus to the front door with professional care. Maya walked behind them, still sobbing, with her hands now cuffed. She had agreed to cooperate and had signed a statement saying she would testify. As they got to the doorway, Jake looked back at me one last time from across the room. "You will be sorry for this, Zoe," he said, his voice quiet and full of hate. "You think you won, but you have ruined everything." I held his gaze without blinking. "No, Jake," I said calmly. "You ruined everything. I just made you pay for it." The door shut behind them at 9:53 at night, and the room became peaceful and quiet. Linda Carson sat at the table, crying softly on Aunt Carmen's shoulder. Father Miguel said a quiet prayer. Benjamin Hartley stood next to me and put his hand on my shoulder for a moment. You did the right thing, Zoe, he said. I nodded, not able to speak. For the first time in 8 months, the heavy feeling in my chest started to go away. On December 18th, 2024, 7 weeks and 3 days after Jake was taken from Rose's kitchen, I was finally free. I sat in the front of courtroom 412 in downtown Portland. My hands were folded, and my coat was buttoned against a deep winter chill. I watched Judge Margaret Whitmore enter the room, her black robe flowing behind her, her face serious and unreadable. The trial took 3 long weeks, starting November 27th and ending December 16th. Now, the final moment had come. The room was packed. Reporters from local papers were in the back, ready to write down every word. My lawyer, Benjamin Hartley, sat with me, his briefcase on the floor. Detectives Sarah Morgan and James Torres were a few rows back, but Jake's mother, Linda Carson, was not there. She had publicly disowned him in a statement on November 30th. Judge Whitmore put on her glasses and looked at the three defendants. The court will now deliver the sentences for Jacob Michael Carson, Marcus James Brennan, and Maya Elena Martinez, she said, her voice strong. Mr. Carson, please rise. Jake got up slowly. His orange jumpsuit was a jarring sight compared to his old expensive suits. His face was thin and white after 2 months in jail. Judge Whitmore looked down from her bench and spoke. Jacob Michael Carson, a jury has found you guilty on several charges. These include attempted murder in the first degree and aggravated assault by poisoning. You were also found guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, paying for an act of arson, and identity theft. The evidence was undeniable. There were recorded phone calls, emails, and reports on the poison. We saw forged papers and heard from many witnesses, including Maya Martinez. It proved that you planned for months to poison your wife, steal her business, and then kill her. You planned an explosion that would have also killed 14 other innocent people. The judge paused, allowing her words to fill the silent room. This court believes your crimes are some of the worst examples of domestic violence and financial abuse we have seen. You showed a reckless disregard for human life. For this, you are sentenced to 12 years in the Oregon State Penitentiary. You will not be eligible for parole for the first 8 years. After your release, you will have 5 years of supervised probation. You are also ordered to pay $500,000 to Mrs. Zoe Martinez. This money will come from selling your assets, including your car and investments. All of your claims to Rose's Kitchen are now ended and full ownership returns to Mrs. Martinez. Jake's lawyer tried to say something about an appeal, but Jake was silent. His shoulders fell in defeat as an officer led him away. Then Judge Whitmore addressed Marcus. Mr. Brennan, please stand up. Marcus rose to his feet. His silver hair was perfectly combed, and his face showed no emotion. Marcus James Brennan, you are guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud. You are also guilty of being an accessory to attempted murder. You worked with Jacob Carson to illegally take over Rose's Kitchen. You used threats, forgery, and took advantage of Mrs. Martinez's poor health from the poison. Your emails with Mr. Carson from October 2023 to January 2024 show you were clearly involved in this crime. You are sentenced to 8 years in the Oregon State Penitentiary. This will be followed by 3 years of supervised probation. For the next 15 years after you get out, you are banned from owning or managing any restaurant in Oregon. Cascade Dining Group has already fired you and cut all ties. The court notes the company was very cooperative with this investigation. Finally, the judge's eyes turned to Maya. She sat with her hands folded tightly, her red hair tied back. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Miss Martinez, please rise. Maya got up slowly and her lawyer put a hand on her elbow to support her. Maya Elena Martinez, you have pleaded guilty to being an accessory and to obstructing justice. The court recognizes that you helped the police completely, starting on the night of October 28. You gave very important testimony against both Mr. Carson and Mr. Brennan. We also believe you did not know just how murderous Mr. Carson's plan was, but you had an affair with your sister's husband. You took money from their crimes, and you agreed to be an alibi for what you thought was just a small accident. This shows you have poor judgment and are morally responsible. You are sentenced to 2 years of supervised probation. You must complete 400 hours of community service in the first 12 months. You must also attend mandatory counseling twice a month for your entire probation. You are not allowed to contact Mrs. Zoe Martinez in any way unless she gives you written permission. Maya nodded, and tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "Thank you, Your Honor." After the judge's final gavel, the courtroom started to clear out. I stayed in my seat for a while, staring at the empty judge's bench. I felt empty inside, even though we had won. Sarah came and sat next to me. "Zoe, you did it," she said softly. Justice has been served. Now you can start to move on. I nodded my head slowly. I know, but it does not feel like I expected. She gently squeezed my shoulder. It never does. But the important thing is that you survived. As we got up to leave, Benjamin gave me a sealed envelope. This arrived for you yesterday, he said. It is from Maya. I opened it later that night in my quiet apartment. Inside was a handwritten note. Zoe, I know I do not deserve to be forgiven. I was foolish, selfish, and I did not see the truth. I will have to live with my actions for the rest of my life. I am so sorry. I folded the letter and put it away, but I did not reply. Jake was in prison. Marcus had lost his career. Maya had lost her family. I had my restaurant back. I was safe again and I had received justice. But I had also lost the sister I thought I had. I lost the marriage I believed in. And I lost the ability to trust that the people I loved would not try to hurt me. The sun came up over the ocean at 6:15 a.m. on May 15th, 2025. It lit up the sand at Cannon Beach as I walked toward Haystack Rock. I held my grandmother Rosa's old cookbook close to my chest. Its leather cover was smooth from years of use. The pages were stained with flour and spices, marked by the hands of the woman who taught me cooking was about more than just food. It was about surviving. It was about putting love into something, even when the world was trying to take everything from you. I had woken up at 4:30 that Sunday morning. I felt a strong urge to come to this place 90 minutes from Portland. Rosa used to bring me here as a child when I felt sad or afraid. My daughter, she would say, holding my hand as we watched the ocean. The water washes everything clean. No matter the pain, the waves always return, and life always moves on. It had been 6 months since Judge Whitmore gave Jake 12 years in prison and Marcus Brennan 8 years. It had been 6 months since Maya received 2 years of probation for her testimony. 6 months since I left that courtroom feeling empty, wondering if justice could ever heal the space where my trust used to be. But I did what Rosa had taught me. I started to rebuild. The $850,000 from her trust fund and the $500,000 from Jake gave me more than just money. They gave me the power to remake everything Jake had tried to ruin. I paid off all the debts for Rose's kitchen. That included the bad loans Marcus had pushed Jake to make me sign. I hired people to remodel the dining room with warm new walls. We grew from 25 seats to 40. We installed a brand new kitchen to replace the one Jake broke. And we hired an artist to paint a mural of Rosa on the back wall, her hands in flower, her smile bright and timeless. But the best renovation was not one you could see. In February, I started the Rosa Heritage Fund. It is a nonprofit that gives grants of up to $20,000 to women escaping abuse. It helps women who want to start their own businesses in the food industry. The fund also offers free legal help, business advice, and connects them with other female business owners in Oregon. In March, we gave out our first 3 grants. The women who received them wanted to open bakeries, catering businesses, and food trucks. Watching them talk about their dreams made me cry more than I had in months. They were not tears of sadness, but tears of healing. Rose's Kitchen reopened on April 8th. The menu was a mix of my grandmother's recipes and new ones I created over the winter. My Aunt Carmen joined me as a business partner. She used her savings and her knowledge as a nurse to help create a healthy work environment for our staff. Soon, Portland Monthly wrote an article about us. The Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association nominated us for the Best Family Restaurant of 2025. But even with all the success, the busy dining room, and the good reviews, there was still an empty feeling inside me. It was a part of me that had not healed. 1 week ago, on May 8th, I was closing the restaurant at 9 p.m. Then I saw Maya standing on the other side of the street. Her red hair was pulled back and her hands were in her pockets. She made no move to come over. She just stood there for 10 minutes. She looked at the bright windows, the happy customers, and the mural of Rosa. Then she turned around and left. The next day, I found white roses on my doorstep with a note. It said, Zoe, I am not asking you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I am sorry every single day. I took the flowers inside and read the note 12 times, but I did not write back. I was not ready, and I knew I might never be. Some wounds are just too deep to forgive easily. This is true even when you know the person who hurt you was also a victim. The waves crashed on the beach around my feet as my phone buzzed. It was an email from a woman named Elena Ramirez. I opened it and read her words in the bright sun. She wrote, My name is Elena Ramirez, and I am 29 years old. I recently escaped a bad marriage with my 7-year-old daughter. We had nothing. A shelter in Portland told me about your Rosa Heritage Fund. I have always wanted to be a professional cook. I saw you were hiring kitchen help. I do not have much experience, but I learn fast and will work hard for you. She simply asked, will you give me a chance? A feeling of warmth and hope grew inside me as I read her message again. I quickly typed a reply. Elena, I would love to meet you. Please come to Rosa's kitchen on Monday at 10 a.m. We can begin this journey together. I sent the email and looked at Haystack Rock, which the waves never managed to break down. I thought of Jake in his prison cell, of Marcus who lost everything, and of Maya living with her choices. I thought of how they almost destroyed my life and my restaurant. Then my thoughts turned to Eleanor, my Aunt Carmen, and all the customers who found comfort at Rosa's kitchen. I opened my grandmother Rosa's cookbook to the message she wrote on the first page. Never let anyone steal your dreams. As I touched the words, I could almost hear her voice telling me that life always moves forward, just like the waves. I still had not forgiven Maya, and maybe I never would, but I was learning to forgive myself for trusting the wrong people. I forgave myself for not seeing the truth sooner. Rosa's kitchen was more than just a place to eat now, it was a safe place. It was proof that women like me and Eleanor could overcome anything and create something wonderful. I promised myself I would always protect my grandmother's legacy. It was not just about her food, but about the hope we gave to women who needed a new start. The sun rose over the water, filling the sky with color. For the first time in a year, I felt a sense of peace. It was not because the pain was gone, but because my life now had a purpose. I put the cookbook under my arm and walked to my car. I was ready to go home, ready for Monday and ready for a new beginning, and now I want you to remember this. God showed me the truth 3 times before October 28th, with the lab report, the secret recording, and Maya's confession. Each time I chose to be wise instead of angry. When betrayal comes from your own family, it hurts the most. But remember that God gives us more than just the strength to get through it. He also gives us the clarity to find our way. I chose justice over family revenge. I did it not to ruin Jake and Marcus, but to protect other women from them. Please do not be like I was. I was too trusting and blind to the warning signs. I believed love was enough to keep me safe. Betrayal from family does not come with loud alarms. It shows up in quiet ways, like in a cup of coffee or a forged name. It hides behind the smile of someone who calls you a sweet name while planning your downfall. If you feel that something is not right, listen to that feeling. That intuition is a guide. The second you ignore that inner voice, you allow others to hurt you. Here is my advice. Guard your money, write everything down, and do not let love make you forget to protect yourself. Getting revenge might sound good, but true justice is what lets you sleep peacefully. It comes from watching the truth win in a court of law. Most of all, when your world is broken by family, rebuilding is not about forgetting. It is about turning your pain into a mission. Rose's Kitchen does more than serve food. It serves hope. I truly believe that was God's plan all along. If my story has touched you, please leave a comment about your own experiences with betrayal. Subscribe for more real stories about strength, and please share this with anyone who needs to know they can survive. I am so grateful you listened to my story. Your time is a gift. Please note, the stories on this channel may include some fictional details for teaching purposes. If you would like a different kind of story, please look at the other videos on our channel. Be safe, be strong, and always remember, you are not as alone as the betrayal makes you feel.